At this time, I'd like to call the August 9th, 2021 City Operations Committee to order at 5 p.m. Roll call. Councilor Gibbs.
Here.
Councilor Bob.
Here.
Mayor Rosenquist.
Here.
And Chair Canales is here. All committee members have received a copy of the minutes of the July 12th, 2021 City Operations Committee. I'll now entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Motion by Gibbs, second by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Item number 2 on the agenda, Mayor Rosenquist will discuss his agenda points to bring forward to this committee. I'll take a motion for that.
No motion needed.
All right.
You don't need a motion to, only for draft resolution or resolution, and those motions are intended to move those items, not for approval, but for moving to the regular floor.
Okay.
The floor of the regular meeting for approval. A couple of items on here there that I'm adding as well as part of this discussion that is not on the agenda, so I appreciate your patience. Just a note that I love Sylvia. She's amazing. She always steps in when Beth is gone, and Beth is gone
Yeah, she is.
for the week. Yeah.
Awesome.
A couple things to follow up with, if you don't mind me moving, Chairman, if you don't mind me moving some items around, we'll leave the resolution, the Sunquest discussion to the end.
I appreciate it.
There was a question last month regarding a number of items for the community engagement coordinator garage sales. We're going to update you all in the Battle of Plattsburgh, and as well as an item that came through my office from Councilor Gibbs and Councilor Kelly regarding the proclamation to rename Columbus Day in the city of Plattsburgh to Indigenous Peoples Day. We'll start there. There is no issue with creating a proclamation to do so. That would be an official within the city of Plattsburgh change, with the understanding that it's not been changed at the state or the federal level, but we will adopt Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Plattsburgh as the second Monday of October, rather than celebrating Columbus Day. And that proclamation can be presented at any moment or at any time under the mayor's office. And so whether or not we want to time it for closer to that timeline, or we want to do it ahead of time, I'll leave it to Councilor Gibbs and Councilor Kelly to make that decision. There's also a proclamation to acknowledge the native name of the city of Plattsburgh as well. And again, that can be done by proclamation and can be done, and I'll leave it up to Councilor Gibbs and Councilor Kelly to let me know when they would like that. Certainly no issue with drafting it and handing it off for reading the proclamation.
So you're waiting for, you want Councilor Kelly and I to convene with each other and let you know our preference, or how
Yeah,
you
sure.
want to do it
Yeah,
that way?
absolutely. You
Okay.
know, it's the timeline, regardless of when it happens. I believe that as long as it happens before the October 7th of this year, I think I keep saying October 7th. I think that's the date. Double check before Columbus Day of this year, right? Now, understanding that won't change the contract, any of the language in the bargaining unit contracts, but it will not replace Columbus Day. It will coincide with federally recognized and state recognized holidays. Let's see, garage sale. So there's a question about garage sale. Unfortunately, with Courtney's schedule, it just seemed like it would be better pushed off to next year, just the timing of it and the coordination of it. Certainly people watching, people in the community who want to organize something or coordinate something, we could certainly welcome that. And if they want to help, if they want the city's help in doing so, the city can help promote. But from the city's perspective, we are interested in doing it. Just the timing of it this late in the year with a number of other events and Courtney getting ramped up, it just made sense for her to focus on that for the time being. But really preparing for next year, some of these things, get the first year under our belt with regards to events and Courtney being new, and then start to add a couple more things. We have a number of ideas that we would like to add coming into next year as well. Battle of Plattsburgh, we met with the Battle of Plattsburgh team today. Not only the event organizers from 1814 Inc., but also DPW, police, fire, community engagement, and the mayor's office met today to discuss the event. Full swing this year, 3 days. We're looking at closing some streets and doing a full-on 3-day celebration, acknowledgement, commemoration, I should say, during that weekend of the 11th. So it'll be 10th, September 10th, 11th, and 12th. And as the details of that event comes out more, then we'll start to share those more as well. There was a great article in the paper about the event. We are planning on it, even though we do see COVID numbers rise. And, that's something that we always have to be mindful of as
I
well.
know that they were talking about funding being an issue. Did you all discuss that at all?
Yeah. I mean, like they're an independent group, so they've got to go out and they've got to, get grants and get donations. And, certainly there's businesses that in the past have supported that. The city of Plattsburgh, we do a lot of our stuff in kind. So where we would normally charge for barriers and street closures and police presence and EMT presence, we don't do that. We kind of co-host this, if you will, for lack of a better term. But we certainly put in some investment from the city's perspective when it comes to supporting this event. It's one of the keystone events that we have in the city of Plattsburgh, and we want to continue to support that and their group as well. We had a meeting today. We're going to have another meeting in another couple weeks as things progress towards the final date of the event. Questions about that? Okay. The biggest thing on the agenda tonight is the SimQuest discussion. Last time we met, we talked about adding the switch infrastructure, which again, similar to our other network infrastructure, is aging on the brink of failure, if you will. There's some things that have been replaced, some things that they just don't want to touch because it's so old. As discussed, there is an item there's a resolution authorizing the change order to the managed security agreement, which adds the switch infrastructure to that under contract, much like we do with the firewall infrastructure that's under contract. It's an addition to this contract. If you look at on this page here, with the outline of expenses, there's a couple different categories to look at in this. The first one you can just put a pause on for right now. Okay, that first one on the top, just put a pause on that for right now. The second one is what we had discussed regarding adding the switch infrastructure in conjunction with the firewall infrastructure that we had already passed earlier this year. The current state IT managed services is everything that we're already doing. So these are already the services that are being provided through SimQuest. So if we take the switch add-on and add it to that, that's our monthly investment for SimQuest. Okay, it's something that's needed. The switches are needed regardless of which way we go, and we'll talk about hosted environments as well, which we have already talked about, and we've kind of been pushing towards more of a hosted solution rather than an on-prem solution, or some type of mix between on-premises and hosted. If we transition, so if you keep that number in mind there, if we transition to a hosted environment, which is what we've been talking about, and the benefits for the hosted environment, which essentially is getting all of those servers that we have on premises up into the cloud, maintaining the firewall and the switch infrastructure locally, maintaining some of the PD servers locally, which are required to be managed locally, and then looking at a hosted environment, either on a Microsoft platform or a Google platform. That would be this bottom number here. So the cost between the on-prem monthly maintenance investment versus the hosted is pretty on par with each other. Absolutely. Even to the point where there could be a potential savings with some of the data stuff that we purchased earlier this year being rolled into, which we no longer need because it'll be in the cloud. Our servers will be in the cloud, so we don't need that physical infrastructure anymore locally. That'll be returned back, we credit back to our account. But at the end of the day, we are looking at a lower monthly fee for maintaining a hosted solution. Not only that, but with the resources that we have internally, IT resources, those people get freed up to then be redeployed elsewhere. Police department, end user support, places where we really could use those people that we do have internally. Okay. Right now, we're not ready to present anything to move forward with the hosted solution. There are some nuances regarding what platform we move to, whether it's a Google platform or Microsoft platform. We did do a survey of everybody should have gotten that survey. It got sent to council and department heads and all city staff. We did get a fair number, probably about 33%, 40% return. The majority of it did favor a Google environment, which was kind of expected. You know, it was certainly a matter of what do you use internally, primarily what do you use at home, where would you prefer the city go? The majority of people said 100% Google, with the understanding that there are some internal processes that do require Microsoft products. So we've got to figure out those unique cases. So that's where and we're still working through that from the hosted environment. However, going back to the switch and the firewall, we need those regardless, hosted or not hosted. That's the infrastructure that protects our network and it allows us to get in and out of the internet.
So for functionality, like email hosting, cloud storage and the like, Google's top notch, and then Microsoft Office for the other applications.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out along the way. And it really does depend on one or two people's job functions at this point. I think there may be a handful of people's job functions, probably counted on two hands, that they need Microsoft products because they exchange information with the state. So there may need to be some like clear cut unique cases for those people without turning the rest of the process for the 200 plus other employees.
Would it be possible for us to see if we can get Adobe Creative Cloud licenses implemented into this as well?
It depends on somebody's job function, but say like somebody like Courtney or Ethan or somebody who does need that kind of platform and technology, it might make sense to do a one-off or two-off licensing for those folks, where Sylvia's office is not going to need a creative cloud license.
Well, just for the reader and for the editor, not everything else.
Yeah, I think that if we're looking at just Adobe reading PDFs or Adobe writing PDFs, we can figure out a solution for that.
So I know we're not at the draft resolution yet, but I can't remember what the dollar amount was for this.
That's my spiel regarding IT infrastructure, cloud hosted versus moving. We can go into this item and we can start to discuss it and then decide if we move it forward.
I'd like to move this forward. I'll take a motion to move this forward.
Well, we're going to take a motion. Yeah. Motion draft resolution. Gibbs.
Yep. Seconded by Bob. Discussion.
So this, as we discussed last month regarding the whole infrastructure, the switch infrastructure was part of that. Same thing that we've seen as we're starting to dig in. It's almost like an onion, right? You peel the first layer off and you're like, oh, okay. The second layer, you're like, we're getting there, but then like, oh, okay. At this point, there are certain things that we find that are just really, quite frankly, not surprising. Nobody to blame. It's just been the nature of what IT has been in the city of Plattsburgh for the last 5 years. So here we are. We've replaced the firewalls. Those are replaced. We do have a path forward. If the council, when the time comes, wants to move to a hosted environment, understanding that there's some cost savings, both short-term and long-term, which I'm confident we'll find. This is one of those combination items, which you can look at it visually here on this page. It looks like that. So even if you cut off this part, which this represents the more cloud solution, this is still needed internally. This is the firewall, this is the switch. They're still needed internally. Much like all of the other infrastructure that we found, we're pushing 9-10 year equipment, hardware out of warranty, on the brink of failure, a little concerning, just trying to move it around, if you will, unplug it, plug it back in, whether or not it will respond accordingly. So this this switch network add-on is much like we've added on the firewall infrastructure earlier on in the year, where it would be about a $2,000 per month expense investment to the city. But again, this infrastructure is managed. If it goes out of date, it gets replaced. No cost to the city. If it needs upgraded, it gets replaced. No cost to the city. It's not something that we need to go off and shop for or buy or purchase or anything like that. It's managed separate from our permanent, I would say, depreciable assets. And so certainly from my perspective and, you know, a lot of what we've been looking at in terms of moving to a more managed IT platform, this would be kind of that next step to do that. Coming back to the hosted solution, we would then need to make some determination on which way we go, or if we go in that direction. That's separate. But regardless, we need, you know, it's one of those things we found where we'd like to replace for fear of network failure.
So I'll entertain a motion to move this to the floor.
Motion's there, items on the floor. Any other discussion or anything else I can answer regarding this item?
How much is this one? I can't remember. I know it's in our notes, but I just don't remember. The draft resolution for the change order.
It would be
This one?
this amount here.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
it'd be
Okay.
that there.
So-
Okay.
Mhm. It's okay.
It'd be $19.64 per month. When we talk on Thursday, we'll talk about total IT budget, which is hovers around, I believe it's at 114 right now for these services. Does it include people, HR resources, or internal IT staff? Future, looking out towards the future, we'll have some flexibility on who's doing what, if you will.
So is this all in favor?
You can do all in favor for this.
Okay, so all in favor, move this forward, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much for your hard work on this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of those things where I wish it could have been done earlier, but you know, it's one of those, we have one person internal that's really working hard to support what Centquest is doing. And, you know, it's not something that keeps me up at night, but I do think about it on occasion, right? So I want to get it done.
Keeps me up.
Does it? Yeah, yeah.
Every now and then I find myself at 3 a.m. and my
Yeah,
head's racing.
The only thing for me is when my email stops working, which has been once a week. And that sends me over the edge.
I don't know what Carl did, but he fixed the search function so I can search email again.
It did get
That's
fixed.
nice.
Yeah, it is.
So send my thanks out to him for
Yeah,
trying.
absolutely. If we can talk just briefly about, and this is more of a pictogram than reality, but this essentially is what our current IT infrastructure looks like. You know, it's got different departments. Each department has their own local server. Each of those local servers talks to a central server, and that central server kind of connects up to the internet. Each one of these is home built, essentially, out of warranty, well over 12 years old, running on a really thin thread. There was one time we were going to restart. I don't remember what server it was, but we were all like, why don't we hold off on that? Because we're not quite sure if it's going to either boot back up or what happens when it does, because there were some upgrades that were needed, software upgrades, and we weren't sure how it was going to be handled. So we've kind of just said, ease into it. It has been restarted and upgraded, and updated, but still multiply that by the number of servers that we're hosting internally. We do understand that PD is going to need some on-prem servers.
Mhm.
They're going to be needed, right? So we have to then go back and say, what type of hardware do we need to upgrade for these servers to move forward making sure that they're under warranty, making sure that they're up to date. That not only includes the internal servers that they use, but also their card computers as well. So that's kind of what this looks like. Moving forward, what the recommendation is every location has its own firewall and switch. Again, that's going to be required regardless of whether those servers are on-prem or hosted. And then everything connects through a centralized hosted solution, cloud storage, data backups, email, the whole works. Everything that's being represented in the individual locations is then going to now be supported in the cloud. And again, long term, we're looking at removing the need to maintain physical servers in-house. Most, 98% of those physical servers in-house. Pushing a lot of that stuff up to the cloud, which already has data backup, which we purchased earlier this year. Automatic software backups, automatic protections. And we'll just continue to maintain some of the legacy stuff that we already maintain with PD. But certainly I feel pretty strongly if, looking at the numbers on both the hosted and the on-prem management will save a significant amount of money moving forward. Chairman, that's all I got.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
At this time, I'll now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts or concerns with the committee on any topic. All right, seeing none, is there any new business to come before this committee? Dean, I heard you got something to bring. I'm totally kidding. There's nothing further to come before this committee. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Gibbs, second by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, closing it off at